Good evening, everyone. How are you?
Good.
We're going to start talking about web Bluetooth and voice recognition. Anybody heard of physical web? Is this new term? Okay. All right. So that's good. You're in the right. Because this is introduction. So if you're an expert, I need your help later. Anybody web developers around here? Just HTML5, right? So most likely we're all web developers. Any UX designers dabbling with UX? Thank you. Anyone played with VR? Of course, I always like VR. Thank you. Anyone dabbled with IoT, robotics? Great crowd. And before anything else, let me introduce myself. My name is Dagdag. My Twitter handle @RonDagdag. I'm a Microsoft MVP, Visual Studio and Development Technologies. Actually, I got in because of JavaScript stuff. So Microsoft and JavaScript, it works well, right? Lead developer at thyssenkrupp Elevator. Anybody heard of thyssenkrupp Elevator? We do elevators. But what I do there is I do a lot of 3D, not modeling, but 3D development. So before they create the elevator, we do approval drawings. So I do development on that and automation. I'm also a Hackster DFW Ambassador here in Dallas. Hackster.io is a place where if you want to learn about IoT, Raspberry Pi, some of the Arduino boards, that's a good place to learn most of my projects I post there. Tutorials, open source, hardware. I also handle the Dallas Littlebits chapter and the Dallas AR VR meetup development meetup. We meet every fourth Wednesday of the month. But this next week we're going to have a meeting about productivity in virtual reality. Imagine, having meetups in the future or having meetings in VR. It's a good discussion. And of course, my Hackster projects is there if you're interested in learning. All right, what got me interested in all these? I always show this because I'm always interested with IoT and Hololens and AR, VR. My really interest is the convergence of IoT and augmented reality or virtual reality. IoT, you get a lot of telemetry data, and how to visualize it is through IoT. This one, it's a small robot that Microsoft developed, and this is during Microsoft Build. And the lady that was there was wearing a HoloLens, and you see how it changes the way you interact with robots with virtual reality, augmented reality, or in this case it's augmented reality and robotics. Right. Cool. Of course, if you're interested in some of my projects, my portfolio, I posted on Hackster.io. You can check out some of my projects that I have there. Most of it, like I said, it's IoT and VR and AR combination. And that's the reason why what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about Hackster.io. We do have a lot of workshops. Is it this month or last month? We did the NodeBots workshop, and a lot of familiar faces that are here attended that, and it's a good event. Imagine Node.js and use it for hardware, right? So going wireless, you have different choices in how you would do communication between end-to-end, right? Anybody heard of Z-Wave? If you most likely in your home, right? You use Z-Wave. Bluetooth, of course, you have a phone. We use Bluetooth a lot, and it's pretty much everywhere. Of course, RFID, you've heard about that. LTE, GPRS, of course, used on phone. I'm not sure about weightless. Some of these, I'm not very much familiar. Of course, NFC, you've heard of that. Edge, remember the older internet, the different generation of the internet, mobile internet, WLAN, of course, all these different technologies. Of course, it's always choose between range, speed, cost, all those 4 different things, right? So if you're talking about, which one's closer to you, the low rate WPAN, which is personal area network, which Bluetooth comes in there, right? Wi-Fi would be like, depending, it's like this is 10 megabits. And of course, in terms of like power consumption, you need more power if you're gonna do Wi-Fi. Of course, the higher it goes, the more power that you would need. Like even the cell phones, 3G, 4G, need more power in order to accommodate that. And of course, the speed, it goes up. So Bluetooth is around here. We're going to talk about that today. Right? Talk a little bit more, just to give you a background of where we're at and when to use this technology. Right? Of course, standards and features. Other than that, see, like I said, Bluetooth is around here. Wi-Fi, in terms of speed, and of course the range. How far does it go? This one had to be closer to. Anyone can read that one? I think it's a little bit small. So this one is, I forgot what kind of chart is this one, where it's a feature chart, where the closer it is, the better. So in terms of comparison, like you would need, Zigbee wise, cell nodes, range, and link budget. Anyway, not gonna go more into that, but what is Bluetooth is a standard specification. Anybody heard of this before, or dealt with Bluetooth? There's 3 classes of devices. The industrial one, which is 100 milliwatts in terms of power. Then the class 2 and the class 3. Of course, different bands. How it got started, it was back in 1994. It's an older technology, but it's still in development. There's still a lot of new things that's coming in for Bluetooth. The original name is short link radio technology. It got its name, of course, Bluetooth special by the Danish king, Harald Bluetooth. Yeah, Harald Bluetooth. Yes. Yeah, that's where it is. Yeah. What it is, it was proposed by Jim Kardash of Intel, which is at the end of the day, what they wanted to do is allow mobile phones to communicate with computers, right, back then. But there's too many protocols. And of course, I guess the history of King Bluetooth is he's the one who actually, was able to communicate or, collect the Danish people together. So that's the whole idea behind it. In terms of evolution, in terms of speed, you can see how it, back in 2001 when it first started, in terms of speed, and of course, it got better and better. We have V1, 1.2, V2.0, and actually along the way, you're there too. You're experiencing all these different things. If you think about where Bluetooth first started, where you can listen in to your headsets and all those, right? And now you have the Bluetooth Classic. That's when it actually got bigger, where there's a lot of usage on it. And actually, from V4, that's when it got introduced Bluetooth Low Energy in 2009. 2013, they have a faster at low energy. And of course, 2017, they just released a few months ago, V5, which is the Bluetooth Mesh. So we're not going to talk about Bluetooth Mesh right now, but that's the latest version that they have for the Bluetooth specs. We're going to talk about BLE, so which is what we have for the past since 2009, 2014. Okay, so what that tells you, actually Bluetooth 5 is 4x range and 2 times the speed. imagine actually the new Samsung S8 has Bluetooth 5 now implemented on it. It has 8 times capacity, message capacity, and so it's going to be ubiquitous. So connection session, I don't know if you remember Bluetooth before, where you have to pair in the number and you have to type in those numbers. That's Bluetooth 3. Remember the pains of like, why do I have to do this? Why does it have all these passwords? And of course, it has the default password of 000. Remember that 1, 2, 3, 4? It's always like 4 digits. So that changed on the Bluetooth low energy. But your Bluetooth, you didn't lose the classic. It's still there. That's what's great about it. They just added more capabilities on it. So you can still connect to your classic, right? Any questions so far? Yes, sir.
I was going to say, I think there's one other thing. If I understood it right, another big change from the 3.0 to 4.0 has to do with licensing intellectual property.
Yes.
Because to use the traditional that we used up in the 3.0, like your headset connection to the car, all that kind of stuff, it takes a bit of money to license that stack, and there's no way around it. But now with BLE, I think that was done in a much more lightweight way. Mm-hmm. So now those devices can be made at a much lower cost basis.
Yeah.
So that's why I think one of the reasons why you're going to see many more devices with the BLE built in.
Right. That is true. Thank you for pointing that out. But of course, in terms of voice, there is no voice for the BLE, but it's faster connections, and it's you can use it for beacons and all that. So it's shorter, smaller packet. Of course, we already know that they released the Bluetooth 5. We talked about that before, and it's going to focus more on IoT for the smart home. Yes, sir.
Is that increase based on Bluetooth 4?
Yeah. So what I think, from what I understand, the changes that's happening there is the mesh is on top of the BLE. So it's using that same communication layer. The mesh is a networking protocol or connection protocol. It's not. So in terms of signal strength, you have different signal strength for these, I think. This part. Yeah, where it kind of gives you different
RSSI.
RSSI, which is signal strength, right? Depending on how close you are.
Your quality too.
Yeah. Anyway, just want to point that out. Anybody heard of GATT, generic attribute profile? So this is how you would use Bluetooth. So you'll have a concept of peripheral, central. Imagine if you're doing networking or web server client. It's kind of like the same way. You have your web server, which is your phone, and then your client would be your peripheral, which is your peripheral is your server, which is like the device where you grab the data, and then of course the central is the client. So you can have multiple connections. I don't want to confuse on that one. Of course, you can read, write, and notify. This is kind of standard of how you would read data from Bluetooth. You have the device, and then it would list all the services that are available to it, and then you connect and read the characteristic. So each characteristic would tell you something about the data that you could get from Bluetooth. Okay. Of course, they have different GATT specifications, like standards for each one of the device. The idea is we have standards that if I am a blood pressure monitor, I would follow that GATT service. So in that way, you have a device that wants to connect to it, then you can communicate with the other devices. So it opens up the market for, I'm a device manufacturer, I don't have to worry about what the phones or what the central is. I just worry about my peripheral, and anybody else can connect to it. So then that opens up to where you can connect more things to your device. Okay. Of course, there is it's called NRF Toolbox. Whenever you have on your phone, if you're using Android, if you want to try it out, you can install this app, and it's free. It's called NRF Toolbox, and it will kind of give you a way to connect to all these different GAT services or different Bluetooth. So if you have a heart rate monitor, or even if you have your phone or your what do you call this, your watch, then you'll be able to connect to that, especially if it has heart rate monitoring and all that stuff. Okay, so I'm going to talk more about, not on the hardware side. Let's move on to the physical web. Have anybody heard of physical web? I was asking that a while ago. It's an open approach to enable quick and seamless interaction with physical objects and locations. Think about it, where everything is a tap away to see what's useful around you. Being able to any place or object can broadcast content. Anybody heard of iBeacons or beacons?
Yeah.
This is like Google's approach on iBeacons. So that's what they name beacons, right? So think about it. You have a device that broadcasts a URL or something, right? So like HTTPS something. And then on your phone, you'll be able to see that you can connect to that, or you can interact with it. So instead of like, anybody you've seen, of course you've seen a QR code. You scan an image and then it points you to a website. This one notifies your phone. So the one thing that happens to me is when I go to IKEA, it would tell me, hey, they have something on sale. I didn't ask for it, but because I was on IKEA, it sends me something on my phone. I don't know if you've experienced that, or have you seen that lately? Or maybe it's just me, I just enabled it on my phone. But there's more and more that's going to happen. Of course, we have some examples I want to show you, kind of give you an idea, just to point out some of the video, how you would use. See, like, here's a good example that I would like to show. Physical web. Of course, I don't have sound. Let's see if I can have sound. No, guess not. Anyway. You see that? When you can connect it to your dog? That was the whole idea. You have something?
Is this the virtual leash example?
Yeah, virtual leash.
Okay.
Let's see, what else do they have here? This one's very interesting. Have you ever been to a restaurant? This is just use cases that kind of Google, have an example. It shows you on your phone. It tells you, hey, you can reserve your seat. And you click on something, it tells you a number. And that's about it. You see how it changes the way you interact with hardware? Maybe we'll get some more examples later on.
Well, there's no pairing involved.
There's no pairing involved.
It just pops
You
up.
just here's another example. Maybe it'll make sense if I show you a little, small examples. This is a parking meter. So on your phone, it tells you, hey, there's a website that you can go to. You go in there, you pay for it, it pairs it. Oof, there you go. There's no login. See how seamless it is?
So this is Bluetooth from the device to your phone,
Yeah.
and then that's sending like a web
Let's
address?
try it out. Maybe it'll make sense. Let me show you something. That's one of the reasons why I'm really interested in these technology. Right? Anybody heard of? I should go back to my presentation real quick. Maybe some example. Of course, I did talk about beacon, being able to connect to it or tell you what's around you. You can actually buy a device like this. It's called, the technology is called Eddystone. You can actually buy a device like this, and you can program it, and it would share that URL. But you can actually make that. That would do it. So what's good about Eddystone is an open message format. It's open source. So there's 3 things that you can do with it. On Eddystone, you can have your device broadcast UUID. So if you have a native app, you can capture that. So imagine, you just broadcast the number, and then your phone can read it, okay? Or a URL, and say like what we were looking at on physical web, where you go to a device, it connects to it automatically, just points to the website. And then TLM with fleet management to identify battery status, or for those little devices. But you can make your device. You can make that device. So in terms of, have you heard of the term proximity marketing? And I think there's more and more that can happen. They said proximity marketing is worth $52 billion by 2022. So this is a way for us to prepare for that, and how can we contribute. Yeah, and of course, more than half, or 55% of industry players already support Eddystone in iPhone. You can have that. Okay, wait, there's more. It's not just URL, but before anything else, let's try it out. I have this device right here. It's called Microbit. Anybody heard of that? It's like a $15 device, and you'll be surprised. I wanted to show you guys how this one is, because I think it's cool. This is how it looks like. Hopefully, displayed properly. Is that better? I always like to show stuff that are slides. So this is a device. It's about $15. Okay, and you can easily connect it to your phone, or to your laptop using USB. The cool thing about this, when you buy one of these, you can program using drag and drop stuff. Anybody ever heard of? So it has LEDs, it has input, it has buttons in it. It's already integrated in. It's actually geared towards students wanting to learn more about IoT or learn more about hardware. But cool, have you seen this one? JavaScript. We're web developers. We get excited when we see JavaScript. Oh, where? Oh, where? Where'd it go? So you can actually use JavaScript on this thing, just like as you do development. So you can do hardware development on a browser doing this. The cool thing is it has Bluetooth. So actually I can save it on here, click download. I will put it on that drive, just like I was saving it as a file on the hard drive. It mounts it to your local machine, and it just saves it in here. Anybody played with Arduino? Or this is way easier in terms of that. Okay, so you can grab your phone. Let's see if it works. Of course, this one would work for newer phones. I'm not sure what version it is. But if you search for nearby on the settings, nearby device scanning, you can enable that. So on your settings, if you can find a way to, the term is nearby.
Is it Android or iOS?
For Android.
For Android.
For iOS, there's an app that you can download.
There's a Chrome plugin, and I forget what it's called, but if you on your iPhone, if you swipe that way and then look at Chrome, and then down kind of in the bottom it has a little enable thing.
Mhm.
If you enable it, it can. But
It
you
can
might need to
detect.
install the plugin to do it.
Anybody was able to try it out? Or it doesn't show it?
Demo?
Something up, yeah, that's the one. You should see BLE Relay Click Demo.
To make something go boom.
Is he gonna dispense candy?
Well, that's later on. We'll work on that. Don't worry about the candy. It's
The contents thrown.
Okay. Let's see. Let's go back to our presentation.
Oh, you made it VR. That's nice.
Yeah. So this is maybe I can show you guys.
If you
So
look at it.
it goes to it. It's an
If you look away
VR
from
device.
it,
Maybe I
if
can
you look at it, it shows you what please wear a hat. Yeah.
Yeah. So it would look something like. Of course, I told you I always liked VR. Maybe you can connect to this. So yeah, it says please wear a hat. So this device told you to go to that website,
Yeah. As
right? Anybody was able to try it out or see it?
Yeah.
Something about nearby. If you, I don't know, depending on your phone, but it's on your settings. But we're going to talk more, like what I said, there's more. And we're going to talk more about web Bluetooth. That's pretty much the goal of my topic today. See this one right here? On the browser, I can do this. And I can pair it to my hat. Let's see if it works. Hopefully it works. The idea is, this is a website. This is just a simple example. I'm going to show you. I want to wear a hat in VR. Be able to view different. See? 360 images. So I wear it. I guess it waits 2 seconds. Go back. I don't have to go through the cloud and go back to it. This browser connects to here directly using Bluetooth. You see the idea? See where we're going with web Bluetooth? It tells me to go to that website. I was able to connect to here. Get that. Okay? Okay, let's go back to the presentation.
So there's plugins in that page now that are talking to your sensor in the cloud, right? Is that what's going on?
Say that again, sorry?
So is what we just saw that there's.
I have the Arduino 101.
Are we don't wait? Powered up.
It's powered up,
Yep.
right? It has Bluetooth.
Yep.
I can connect to the Bluetooth via browser.
Right. Okay. So from your Mac, you can compare. You just.
There's no Mac.
For the
Well, I
browser.
guess
Yeah.
that's my browser. Yeah.
Okay.
So to control Bluetooth devices directly from the web, make sure it's HTTPS only. I made that mistake. It's like, why is this technology not working? Yeah. And make sure that it's HTTPS. Okay? Secure. Of course, security first, user interaction, and of course there's approval required. Did you see that? I click the button in order to connect to here. It doesn't automatically connect. It doesn't automatically pair. So if I'm a user, I want to interact with this web Bluetooth, I have to connect specifically. On the on this one, on the microbit one, which is the Eddystone, it automatically tells me on my phone because it's sending signal. It's broadcasting, hey, go to this website. Does that make sense? So So that's the difference between Web Bluetooth and Eddystone. Or physical web Bluetooth is part of physical web too, how Google sees it. Of course, it's ES6 promise-based API you can use. That's the requirement for Web Bluetooth. You can use it for Android 6, Chrome OS, Mac OS X, and Linux. Right now, it's still on the experimental stage. It's not fully released yet, but it's going to be soon. Windows 10 support is in the works, so if you have Windows 10, you can't use it yet. And in iOS, you have to create a custom app. So how do you do development on this? There's an object called navigator.bluetooth that you can access in your browser, in JavaScript, that you'll be able to connect. It will tell you if you can connect or not, if it has a value. And of course, you need to specify a filter, and it has to be invoked. So you have to create a button to connect. So how you would do it is you scan for the device, connect to it, get the service that you're interested, get the characteristic that you're interested, read and write, subscribe to that characteristic. How you would find the device, you would say navigator.bluetooth request device, and it would filter, like here, I'm only interested on battery services, so it only lists all the battery services. You remember I clicked the Bluetooth icon on my phone, or it pops like list of Bluetooth that I can connect to inside the browser. This is what it does. And that's what you would use inside JavaScript. So you find the device. Once you're done, you call device.get.connect. So once you selected which device you want to connect to, this is the call you need to do. And then the primary service that is related to what you're doing, and characteristic, like battery level to give you the battery, and then read the value, and this would return data. And that's about it. And then, of course, if you want to write to it, you have to make sure that you integrate. There's like a lot of examples on GitHub to do this. So just to give you an example, kind of show you what I'm talking about here a little bit. So let's do. Any questions so far? You're still with me? Yes, sir.
Just a quick synopsis. So I've got my phone enabled, right? And I walk by a store.
Mm-hmm.
The beacon will connect to the phone.
It would just broadcast.
It will broadcast, yes.
And then your phone
It broadcasts a
is
URL.
listening in. Yeah, it broadcasts a URL.
Then my web browser is launched, going to that URL, and from that point on, then the communication to the device is over Bluetooth direct. We're not going direct from the client. Are we going to the website anymore?
There's different ways, like the examples that we were looking at before on their website, where it would connect.
Server anymore.
It connects to the server, and then since the URL knows, or you can send data from the server, then you know which device are you connected to. That kind of stuff.
Okay.
So there's different ways around it, right? So if you're doing iBeacons, typically it's just a UID, and then based from the UID, you look up which URL you want to go into. Typically, that's what you use on iBeacon. For Eddystone, you have three things that you can broadcast, which is the UID, which can be a unique number. Depending on the application, you can use that, right? You can capture that number, so you can say, some people use it for indoor navigation, because now, if I have 3 of these Bluetooth, beacons, then I kind of know where I'm at inside indoors. So that's one scenario that they use it for. There's a device that broadcasts data. All these phones can listen in and kind of know where they're at. The next scenario is Web Bluetooth, which is totally different from beacons. The Web Bluetooth is I can go to a website. Maybe it'll make sense if I do this. This is another one, the example that I have. See if I can connect to it. So there's this website. So I didn't go to, I go to this website. Hopefully it turns on. See how it finds only BB8 devices, even though I have this one connected, right? There's a Bluetooth on this that you can connect, but it only shows, remember that steps that I showed you? It lists only BB8. You can only capture this. So I can pair to that. So I can pair to this, right? See how it says blue? See if I can make it red. See how it changes red? So I'm connected directly to that. I'm not connected to any website. I'm not connected to any cloud. I didn't install an app on my phone. I can do this on my phone. I didn't install an app. It just downloads all the JavaScript, everything that it needs from the cloud or from the web server, and then I'm able to connect to it. There's no app store. There's no approval. You see where I'm getting into? As web developers, we like that. I mean, that's the reason why web is so ubiquitous. It's everywhere because of these. There's no gatekeepers. So I can see if it works. Of course, it's not going to work here. The reason why is because I don't know how to touch on this.
That's an app.
Yeah. So let's see, Opera software.
Oh, Macs don't have touch screens.
Yeah.
They have everything else.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Nice, right.
But let me see if I can connect to it.
Not so much displays.
So I can connect using my phone.
Just people out there. So somewhere,
Of course, the demos are.
I'm surprised it's only that many.
Anyway,
Idea.
it's work. Yeah. We were able to change the color. I didn't set it properly. But anyway, we'll test that later on. Does that make sense? You see where we're getting at with this technology, how it changes the way we connect. Okay, let's go back to the presentation. Let's talk about speech recognition now. That's one of the things on our agenda. Anybody heard of Annyang, Annyang.js? Anybody have played with it? This is pretty cool. It's a speech recognition JavaScript library. It just works. Just 2 kilobytes, and you can have voice recognition or speech recognition, not voice. To control your site with voice commands. It supports multiple languages, there are no dependencies, and it's free. Hear that? It's free. Free stuff. And you can go to this website, anyangjs.com. It's open source too. So if you want to learn more about the voice recognition, this is how you would use it. I don't know if you can see that or it's too far. So add it in your JavaScript library. You have a list of all the commands and what it does for every time it detects that voice command. You just say add command and you start. That's all you have to do. Very clean. Is it too small? I don't know if I can make that larger.
It's okay.
But let's try it out. Sometimes it's better when you see it showing. Okay, there's this project. Okay, so this is combining both thought I could do this. See how this one right here, if, on this JavaScript, if Annyang, okay? So we have a bunch of functions that we specify relay 1 and relay 2. Remember that read characteristics and write characteristics that I was telling you about? There's a library that we've created to connect to the Bluetooth. And then there's the command. So relay 1 calls that JavaScript command 1. If it's a lamp, I guess this is an example, but we're going to try to do it on this. We have to connect this to a power.
Extension cord?
Yeah, I guess we'll try it out. This is just a simple. Last time I demoed this, it didn't work. So we'll see if it works now.
We still managed to read it.
So, and then of course, you know, get a callback just to display what it's reading. And then of course at the end of the day, it just says add commands and start, Annyang.start. That's all you have to do. Does that make sense? Let's try it out. Maybe it'll make sense once you see it. Okay. So I'm going to run that code. So we have these. That's the hat. That. We have this. Anybody heard of glitch.me? That one is pretty. Glitch.com. Okay. So, since we're all web developers, and if you just want a quick server that you just want to play with, and you don't want to host it in your local machine, you want to host your web and show it to your friends, this is a good website. So, you can actively connect it on GitHub and get the project from GitHub and that kind of stuff. But it's, it's a node server. Where you just here, I'm just using it to have my site there. It's a little bit small, but makes sense. So I have that Annyang there, index.html. That's my browser, my HTML site. This is the Bluetooth one. Okay, we were talking about relay. That's a device name, service UUID. Just think about it. The Bluetooth that I have, which is over here. I'm using Arduino 1.1 as Bluetooth. I specified that there's a service there. I can show you the Arduino code that kind of looks at that. But there's a service ID, characteristic ID, of course, device and server. How you would connect to it is navigator.bluetooth.requestDevice. Then it would filter out. Remember that it would filter out, like on the hat that we were just looking at, it filters out all the Bluetooth. And then after you were able to select, or the user selects the device, remember promises. Then you can say device.get.connect. It would return a promise. After the promise gets resolved, then you would go to all the services, and then you cache all the characteristics on that for that device. And then of course, you can read, write. In order to read value, you say, get that characteristic that I want, .read value. You would return a promise, and they will give you the value. So all these are on GitHub. I'll show you where it's at. But you get the idea, right? Sometimes it takes a little bit to kind of analyze it. But the idea is I'm trying to connect from service, or from device, service, then characteristic at the end of the day. So depending on which characteristic I'm trying to connect to, I would trigger a device. So in this case, I'm going to write to it. A while ago, we were reading, right? We're reading. If I flip the hat, we're reading it from our browser. So now what we're going to do is we're going to write something and send device, or send command to that. Okay? Let's try it out. So we have these. Make sure it's HTTPS. Yeah, this is a little bit smaller. I wonder how we can make this larger. See, it's already listening into me and whatever I'm saying. It's giving you all that value. That's Annyang listening in on the browser. See, I went to that website, that charming gambler glitch.me. So let's try it out. Hopefully it works. Of course, it's typically. I thought it was over here. Let's see. Just to avoid confusion, I don't want to show that. This one should connect to relays.
Can you see it?
Yeah, I can see this one. I think I should click on
Oh.
it. Yeah.
There.
It's spinning.
See that one? I click the button. You have to click on it. Damn. That's what it says. And then pair it. So now I'm paired to that. Now I'm connected. And let's see. 1. Because that's one of the commands. See how it clicks?
Yeah.
So technically, everything is fine. And then I can turn it off and say 1, or lamp. I guess that's what we have on our list that are actually loaded. Candy. Candy, please. There you go. It turns it off. So now it doesn't work. So I can say M&M. See how it turns it on? Then I can connect to it again. Everyone wants some candy.
Why would you turn it off?
Hmm?
Why would you turn it off?
It's for security reasons. I still want my candy. Okay, let's go back. And these are all the links. If you want to follow how to install that. The original project on this, I didn't create the original project. I just replicated someone project on Hackster. It was set to lamp, so it turns on and off a lamp. But candy is more fun to do. So if you're interested in this, there's instructions on how you can do this and connect to it. If you're interested in the Arduino, anybody interested in seeing what the Arduino code looks like? On the other side of the peripheral side. Anyway, but it's also there too. And that's about it. That's what I have. Thank you.
That's awesome.
Any questions?
Well, publish these slides because you got a lot of great links in there.
I'm gonna publish it in
Well, okay.
Meetup. I think it works out better.
Yeah, that's great. Thanks.
Yes, sir.
Are there any security concerns with this,
Security concerns?
with the new Bluetooth or anything?
The good thing about this is it's thinking about security in a way that you have control. The user have control to when to connect, right? On the web Bluetooth side, remember I had to click a Bluetooth button and it would show me all the devices that are around me that I can connect. Then I can continue on. So it's just that it doesn't store the pairing. If that makes sense.
That's a big difference between the 4.0 and onward than the Classic, right? Because Classic had Bluetooth in mind, but it was a really old like traditional connection-oriented VPN style thinking.
Yeah, it's kind of like VPN.
Whereas from the BLE, I think they started the protocol from the ground up with security in mind, and after 15 or so years or whatever it was of experience on the Bluetooth Classic. So it's meant to be, you know, as lightweight as possible, but yet really secure and really scalable.
Yeah. And also, when you think about it on the physical web aspect of it, which is the Eddystone and the iBeacons. I mean, that's just broadcasting data. It's up to your device. You have to turn it on to receive that data. You can turn it off. It doesn't change your machine because it's just a broadcast mechanism. It's kind of like the same way as when you post a QR code on the screen. It just shows you there's a QR code. It's up to you to connect to it or to take a picture of it and connect it to the web. Same way as for these beacons. It's just a signal. Kind of like radios, FM radios. If you don't want to listen to it, you can turn off your radio. That's how it works. Anybody else? What do you?
Wi-Fi. Why do they go for Wi-Fi? Really, yeah, people are forced to. Wi-Fi, do they have a solution for the safety?
Yeah, which is great. If you think about it, we're talking about, whenever we talk about Bluetooth, is our personal access network. So that means it's close to us. I don't have to go up to the router and go back down. This is like from there. It's close to me. So something I'm wearing,
Small bed.
why would I have to go back to Wi-Fi and have internet connection on my phone?
There are three issues about
And
limited
bandwidth, that's frequencies, that's correct.
I mean, you're not going to get a Wi-Fi device with the button still like this the last 10 years, broadcasting 10 times a second. It's just not going to happen. And that's exactly what BLE and some of these low-power WAN things are designed to do.
Yeah, you think about power.
Yeah.
That's
Power
a good
distance.
use case. Power and
Power, distance, bandwidth,
distance,
I think
yeah,
are
the bandwidth. You're talking about the signal, 1-0, right? Just enable, disable. I don't need to go back to the internet and go back down, or go to the cloud and then go back down, right? There's
You're not going to stream Netflix.
Netflix on there.
Until the Dick Tracy watch. Then
Right.
Yeah, or to put some pictures of the broadcast.
Yeah, it's broadcasting. So it's just depending on the use case.
Yeah.
And that's what it is. Yes, sir.
Is there a lot of programmatic marketers who are starting to get into this?
Marketing wise?
Yeah.
huge.
Because
Like I said,
Huge.
I went to IKEA and I found out they have these beacons. Just displays whatever they have on sale. Or sometimes I go to a store and on my phone it says, "Hey, we accept, we accept these, there's where you can use your phone
NFC.
to
Yeah.
pay NFC." It just tells me. I mean, how does that know? How does it know that I'm there?
Perfect.
I mean, even if I turn off my GPS, I mean, GPS doesn't actually tell you that I'm in the store. Maybe I'm near the store, but this one doesn't use GPS because I'm close to the device. My device can capture that. It doesn't have to go, triangulate to the satellite just to know I'm there, right? I mean, close by.
So now you're talking beacon
Yeah,
in that example. How does that tie into web Bluetooth?
Web Bluetooth would be like this, right?
Right.
I have a device. Typically, what do we have now? We download an app. They told us to download an app in order to get the experience on this.
So does he also have a beacon capability?
You can, but this one doesn't.
He could, and as an example, he could have a beacon such that when I pass by, the beacon then
It tells me where to go.
tells me where to go to that website. And then that website then is where I would have to physically then click the button in order to pay.
Yeah, and one of the things that they're kind of looking at in the future is, well, it tells me to connect to it, but why do I have to pair?
Mhm.
I already have that connection. So maybe I just need to say enable or disable, something like that. They're kind of looking into that space. But you see where the technology changes. Before when we're doing website or web development, it's all like information, getting information from the cloud, or getting information about something. But think about it in the scenario of the library. Whenever I go to the library, either I go to the phone or I search on the internet, what book am I needing? What if the space tells me where to go and kind of maps where I need to go to get the book?
I saw something about 3 weeks ago, and it was a real estate person, and they had it on their sign for an open house. And what they were looking for were people who were just driving around the neighborhood looking at houses. They can just come in. As they pass by the sign, oh, okay, I didn't see that sign. Let's go in.
Yeah, so that is what physical web is kind of gearing towards. All the different use cases that you can use the web for physical part. But what I'm kind of getting into is like, I can use that for VR, right? For virtual reality. I have a virtual reality experience for these. If I'm close to it, then I can use it. Why do I have to download an app, wait for hours and hours just to get to that experience? So this opens up a lot of possibilities. As we're all web developers here, or have an idea of the web, how we can use it for everyday use. Anybody else? Cool. Very good subject.
Yeah, sounds good.
Can't wait to see what y'all build. It'll be fun to see.
Yep.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.